Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Rooster Teeth podcast. I'm Burnie Burns.
I'm Chad.
I'm Aaron.
I'm Chris.
They almost kept up with it.
They almost
They were like,
just got past me.
should we try it again? We went the opposite direction. Is that what it was? I think that's what it was. Yeah, get a thumbs up. All right, hey, everybody, welcome to the Rooster Teeth podcast. I'm Burnie.
I'm Chad.
I'm Aaron.
I'm Chris.
I wish you guys could go on the other way this time.
Yeah.
That would be great. Sorry for the audio podcast listeners. We just had a really funny thing with our introductions going the opposite way on the couch as they normally do. Happy Labor Day?
Labor Day.
Everybody?
Or Memorial Day, whichever one it is.
I have to always stop. It should be easy because Memorial is May, right?
Oh,
Right.
So that should be, I just literally just came up with that myself, Chris. Like,
okay.
we're sitting here.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so, and it's weird. So what does Labor Day celebrate? Like, what is this just people who work?
Well, it sounds like a day where you should work harder.
guys,
I'm
we should all
glad it's
double
a day
down.
to get off,
Yeah.
but you know.
Hey, I admire your attitude, boy. That's a great idea.
It's my first and last time on the Rooster Teeth podcast, so thanks for having me.
We're going to introduce the screw attack philosophy to Rooster Teeth. Everyone works twice as hard on Labor Day.
No, please, God, don't let that get out there.
As instead of having the we have the day off, you know. So, Chris, do you find it's interesting when we have a official day off at the company?
I don't know if it really works that way, though.
Yeah, right.
Like-
See, that's what I'm getting at. Yeah.
To me, and I was talking to Josh about this last night.
What did you, Patrick Hill?
Yep.
Oh, sponsors, yelling at me, sponsors. So our sponsors today, want to thank them for sponsoring the Rooster Teeth podcast. That was my dramatic pause.
More on that soon.
Thank you
For-
both.
you see, listen, Patrick really misses when Gus isn't here because Gus is a professional broadcaster. I am not. I'm a color man. I'm here for my look.
I don't know if they heard
I'm here for my look.
Patrick got a good hearty laugh at that.
Well, anyway, it's like, to me, a holiday at work is just a day whenever there's other people who aren't available for working stuff. Does that make sense? Like, I might still be working on a holiday, but there are other people in the office. Like you can't go to accounting and ask about accounting.
Right.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like
It's fair to say your schedule in general is pretty fluid anyway?
yeah, very much so. Because it's more. I feel like my job's so objective based.
Sometimes you don't know what day it is, right? You're just like, I know it's T-2 until this is done. And you don't think Thursday, right?
Yeah, it's like what day is it? Well, it's day 13. That's all
Yeah.
you know. You're in day 13 of
13.
production, and that's it.
Well, we got so used to not having holidays because, like, conventions, it's cheaper for them to book over a holiday with a hotel. So that's why you see so many conventions during holidays. And so we will always be out at some event, and then we get back, and it's just back to work. And I was like, oh, that was a holiday that we missed again.
Did you guys do that thing for years and years, which is like, we're going to get ahead? Like,
yeah.
talk about that?
Yeah.
Like this mythical goal of getting ahead on production?
Yeah, it doesn't happen.
It's always the curse of production. We talked about it before, which is if you have a deadline, then you just work up until the deadline. And you end up kind of, in a lot of ways, when you're creating stuff, you end up trying to push those deadlines sometimes too to get things more done. The idea, though, that you could ever like finish something and you say, okay, this is complete and done and it's perfect, that just moment never, ever comes.
Yeah.
Ever. So you will work right up until the last minute on anything.
It's the mindset of like, if I didn't work up to the last minute, then obviously I didn't make it as good as it could have been.
I left something on the table.
Yeah, I left something on the table. And it's like, well, maybe you didn't. I mean, or maybe you did, but that's it getting into my head. But I mean, you might increase it by 0.1% in quality or some intangible, but like you probably could have taken that day and been okay and not, I don't know. We talk about that all the time, struggle with that. It's like, where do you balance that life of pushing all the way to the end and then also having a life afterwards? Like actually going and enjoying bowling with your friends like you should be, or I don't know, whatever you're going to do.
Well, Aaron, I think you and Chris and Josh as well, you guys are in kind of a unique position in the company where you guys are very project-based.
Yeah.
Chad, you work on Death Battle all the time.
Yeah.
Like 365 days a year.
Yep.
Same project,
That
right?
and top tens, yeah, all of our shows. So we have a routine that we do. So
You guys take breaks ever?
we usually take some time off in January.
Yeah?
It's our one chance to try and get like a little bit ahead for the year.
Yeah.
But the problem is, like you're saying, like especially so our 3D animator Torian, I cannot get that guy to stop working. Like that's
Yep.
as a manager, I'm just like, please go home, like stop working. And so anytime I get him like more resources or like, hey, let's give you more time per episode. Like he eats, sleeps, and breathes animation. So then he's just like, well, I can use that time to make it even better. And he does. And like I will get this crazy animation and I'm like, this is awesome. But damn it, go home. Like have a life.
There's been a huge upheaval. I don't know if you guys saw it on Twitter. There was this big upheaval about crunch, specifically as it relates to video games and tech stuff. which is a huge problem in the industry, is crunch. And everything goes into it. Production, any kind of production of any kind, whether it's, animation like we do here, just general production for like live action stuff. And then for video games, sometimes those crunches are like a year, or 12 months. And some people work 18 hours a day, 6 days a week or more, for months and months at a time. And there's been a lot of high profile incidents in the news. Like EA had this EA spouses, I think it was what it was, because it was wives or spouses, I shouldn't say which wives, spouses of EA employees who were against crunch because it was destroying family life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Whereas with here, we just have fucking dogs barking in the background.
We're shooting this in an alleyway right now.
We're just like, we're in a junkyard on the wrong side of town. Who is that? Is that Rebel barking? Probably, right? What are the
You
chances?
just hear gunshots and dogs. And we're like,
That's been. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, that's all I had to say. Special podcast.
But I hate crunch. I hate it. And it's like as a manager, like you were just talking about that. You don't want to ever give the impression that you want someone to do it. Yet myself as an artist, I absolutely did that stuff. Like for Red versus Blue, I worked my ass off and stay up all night and then go back to my day job and then come back. So it's kind of like I always run into this huge dilemma of I don't want to tell people they have to do it. So I don't want to go that direction, but I also don't want to go all the way the other direction. Tell them if they want to do it that they can't do it. You know what I mean? But I do feel a responsibility when I see people like working 12 hours in a day. It's like I say it all the time. I say it to Ellie all the time. It's like stop, go home. Don't work on this weekend. We did a badass vlog this week in Vegas where she was firing a mounted machine gun out of a helicopter.
What?
Yeah.
What?
So she's training. Do you know the thing that we're doing in the vlog?
I know the training, but I didn't know about helicopter cannons.
Yeah.
It's like a Huey or something, like a Vietnam copter.
Yeah, she's like in the side seat, like firing at these like trucks and cars that they have on the side of a mountain. She's
How do
like,
we sign up for that?
Yeah, just go. You have to run my schedule for 6 months. I get bored of them doing that. It's like go do something better than that. It's like it's the curse of Rooster. You have to turn everything into a show. You know what I mean? It's just our nature kind of a thing.
I feel really bad. Ellie was like playing guitar the other day in stage 5, and Chris and I were working in here, and she's got like a beautiful singing voice and all that stuff.
Not many people know that. That's true.
Yeah. And but I thought she was playing this thing, and it was so just lovely and angelic. So I stuck my head outside the door and I said, "Shut off that goddamn music!" And she just stopped. And I was like, "Oh man, I should go tell." And so I walked up and I walked up and I said, I didn't really mean that when because I had talked to her about it before. And she's
crying.
like, "I didn't know that was you. I thought someone was yelling at me. I thought that they'd finally, done too much and blah, blah, blah." And I was like, "No, you're fine. Go back to."
I don't know where she's gonna work next or when, but she'll go into that interview and they'll go, "Tell us about your previous job." She goes, "I don't want to talk about it."
Yeah.
Just can we not discuss
Just a
it?
single tear just goes down.
Well, I took off 8 years from work, and that's just a black hole in my resume at this point.
Speaking of which, do you guys ever have that, like, explaining your job to people when you get put into that environment? Like, "Oh, so what do you do?" And like, I first am always just like, "YouTube," and like hope that they'll just be satisfied with that answer.
You can say that now. You couldn't say that like
That's
6 years ago.
Exactly
Yeah.
right. That's like a grace that you can say YouTube, and at least people understand basically what you're talking about.
Right.
Yeah.
The problem is with Death Battle, it's so nerdy because then like, "Oh, really? I love YouTube. What do you do?" And it's like, well, you ever wondered which character that's fictional would win in a fight to the death? They're like, "No." And I'm like, "Well,
Really? I would think that's like such a concept that so many people get. I mean, the amount of views that Death Battle gets, biggest show in the Rooster Teeth Network in terms of views for what comes in. What's your average views per episode?
Usually we'll get it like 1.3 within a week.
Yeah.
And then it really depends on the topic. So we've like Goku vs Superman's coming up on like 40 million.
Yeah, so
crazy.
It's crazy. So people like they get it. It's like that's the thing I think about Death Battle is that it's got this broad appeal that people just understand because they've all had those dumb conversations with their friends. Like I always said, way back when the podcast first started, we tried to figure out what would be the nerdiest conversation you could have, and it was an argument over whether or not a lightsaber could cut through adamantium. That would be the nerdiest possible conversation. And then we brought that up, and of course we got pounded like in the forums of like, well, of course this can't happen. The facts.
Oh yeah, I know.
The facts. That's like half your job is like researching facts, right?
Yep, lots and lots of
facts.
soul-crushing nerdy research because we decided to actually determine who would win in a fight to the death. So the other shows that have ever done this are always like, oh, who do you think would win? We kind of think this. Tell us in the comments, and they leave it to a vote. And so, when Ben created the show, he's like, no, I want to settle it.
Science.
Yeah, exactly.
Pure
We're gonna science the shit out of this.
Yeah, people's heads explode at the end and everything. Beloved characters are like decimated by the end of this thing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So one of them dies, which instantly pisses off like half the audience immediately.
Yeah.
Because like they're there to root for their favorite character, and we just murdered
There
it.
to ruin it.
Dude, I've gotten death threats.
I believe it.
From Goku versus Superman, especially. Ben and I both really bad. I had a person wish cancer upon my family, and that I should take the fastest way down off of the highest skyscraper I could find. Just all this stuff, and it's like, it's a fictional character, dude.
Jeez.
Like, I'm a fan of Goku.
But it is
too.
canon, right?
Yeah, right. That's it. I know. We did the Meta versus Carolina episode.
Yeah.
Right. We still get people being like, "That's not how it would go," and I was like, "We literally worked with the
This is
people
close
who
as you can get.
created
Yeah.
these episodes. They said this is how it would go, and they even debate that. So anyway, it's fun, but debate's a big part of the show.
And
that's
I was
what
like, when
makes
it first came
entertaining.
up, I was like, all right, well, I don't want to know how it ends. Like, I literally didn't want to know like how it would end up. So, and the funny thing is, we've actually, some of these battles you've seen, like where characters do face off, just nobody dies, right? And so then you guys can take it to the point where who would
we
ultimately win.
haven't really done that other than like we did a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles battle royale. That'll hurt your childhood if you watch that one.
That was good.
But yeah, so normally we do stuff that like kind of the appeal of the show is that these characters would never meet up. And so like we get to kind of, it's almost like writing fan fiction, like of what it's this cool thing of these two universes coming together and then they fight to the death. But yeah, we have talked about that where characters haven't actually ever like, they may exist in the same universe, but they've never truly like tried to fight to the death and
They're
trying
just
to
meeting for
determine.
the first time and fighting for the first time.
Yeah.
I've been writing all those hate comments, Chet.
It's been you the whole time.
I'm trying to find an avenue to explain that, but
They're wishing the cancer on. That is terrible.
Yeah.
Why would you do that?
Man,
what's like?
have you seen my family?
Well, really quick before we move on, if someone is seeing you for the first time, like they've only ever watched Rooster Teeth stuff specifically, what would be the first episode that you would recommend someone to watch of Death Battle to introduce them to the series?
Oh man, I'll tell you what. It's the most recent one, and I'm super excited about it. So we did Balrog from Street Fighter versus TJ Combo from Killer Instinct, and it is a boxing match. It's really special. I love the amount of effort that went into this episode because we're big fighting game fans.
Yeah.
And so like it was a passion project for everyone involved, and I feel it's like Torian's best animation that he's ever done.
Really?
It's unbelievable.
Okay, great. Yeah.
So.
And I remember I walked into your office, was talking to you guys about that, like well in advance. Like,
Yeah, they said I was out, and
Yeah.
I was somewhere else, and they're like, "Oh, Burnie came by. He's talking about the fight, and he's like, thought it was really cool. He's like, you should get it on that Mayweather fight."
Yeah, I was trying to figure out like something we could do for like Death Battle. The McGregor Mayweather fight was coming up. It was like 2 months out, but there's still all this mountains of hype for it. And then I was like, we should do something that's like related to that somehow. And they just let me know they were doing a boxing one. I was like, that's perfect.
Did you watch the fight?
I did.
I didn't. Power was out because of Hurricane Harvey, which we should talk about in a minute too. But yeah, I was that was my first time. I went without power for 28 hours, which is look in the spectrum of things that have happened to people during the storm. That's like nowhere on the scale. But I didn't have access to anything, and then I ended up leaving and going to Vegas while my power was still out. That made me really nervous because it's like,
hope everything's good.
yeah, or it's like you're there and all of a sudden your power comes back on. It's like. It's not the usual leave the house of like, did I leave the curling iron on or stuff? You don't know. Like, it just kicks back on. It's like, oh yeah, I actually left her curling iron plugged in. She's like a weapons grade. It looks like the world's like most dangerous dildo. It's a curling iron. It's.
I mean, it would be. It would be.
It would be. Yeah, it would be if they marketed it that way. They're just one marketing meeting away from having the world's most dangerous dildo. But it's this black rod that comes with a Kevlar thermal glove, and then she curls her hair with this thing. But there's no like, I don't know much about beauty products. All the curling irons I know, they had the little clip bitty thing, like there's a big long clip. Yeah. And it doesn't have that. It's just the rod part, and then she wraps it, I guess. I saw a video on YouTube where a girl burned her hair off using it.
Oh my god!
And Ashley has like
What are you
severely burned herself, like on her neck and her shoulder, like a couple of different times with this thing. I don't like this thing in the house. I want it out. But I was worried about that thing. I was convinced that was like power comes back on, we're Vegas, and it like slowly burns through the house, like from the second floor, like burns its way down through the foundation.
Could the curling iron go through adamantium?
We'll find out. That would be the new Death Battle: Burnie's house versus curling iron. That's it.
There, look at
That's the thing. That's it.
That
Looks innocuous, doesn't it, Aaron?
That is a vibrator. I didn't. Mean
Yeah,
I mean,
probably.
Yeah, she's just convinced you real well this whole
Probably
time.
is.
Actually, it looks like a little vacuum cleaner. Like it has different attachments and stuff. Like you get a little.
See, we got the velvet glove. Like,
It even has all the different attachments there. It goes all the way down from Burnie up to Max. Okay. By the way, have you heard this about Max? That Max has enormous balls? Have you heard this?
Oh, I
No.
believe that.
It's just like a thing. Everybody's
Absolutely
laughing over
believe
here.
that.
Is this true? I've heard this.
I
now.
mean, I haven't. I don't know for.
I've talked to Max enough to get the sense that he has. You know, he seems like he just swinging around. I mean, who knows what his penis looks
Sorry,
like?
wait.
He's just like,
Well,
Is it like the balls themselves? Or
Let's
the
get him in
sack?
here. Can we call Max over? Tell him to wear something revealing.
well, I imagine Max has the kind of balls that like they fold up over his penis. You know, like when he wears.
Why do you?
things,
Why? Why would
Like
you
a bow?
like a drawbridge?
Just something I think about at night before I go to sleep. But like, there's so much balls that where else you get it? Like they just kind of.
Are you talking about the balls themselves or the sack? Like the
wait, like it's just,
Wouldn't that indicate both?
They're not
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. It'd be really
he's a
funny if it's a tiny sack and really big balls. it's like skin tight balls.
see, I was picturing the opposite, and he's like a flying squirrel.
Well, it's like when you vacuum seal
He
something.
is in the art department. We can just have him draw us a photo. Just a little picture. He can draw us.
Oh, he'll send a picture.
Perfect.
Max will send a picture of his balls.
I'm gonna text him. I'll say, Max, is it okay
If we talk about
we talk about your balls?
Well, it's a little late for that.
What's that? We can
We can go back to the hair dildo.
we can either edit this or fire him before it airs. So that way it's okay. Is it okay to talk about your balls?
Max talks about my butt all the time. It's
Air.
fine.
Then say, P.S. I hear they're ginormous.
Yeah, he's always like.
Oh, I almost made a typo. That would have been embarrassing. Is it okay?
Oh, would it? Yeah.
I'll let you know what he says later.
Yeah,
when
I'm
he comes
curious.
back.
Or what picture he sends.
I'll turn on my phone. Let's see here.
Yeah.
I don't even know how do we get in this conversation?
Hurricanes. That's what it was. The tragedy in Houston, I think, is what got us onto this.
Ah, yes, the classic pathway.
Yeah, classic.
To talk about your coworkers' genitals.
we were talking about the fight or something, about watching the fight, and then the electricity, and then the curling iron. The fight, though, were you saying that was the first fight you'd seen, or what were you saying?
you weren't there.
No, power's out.
Power's
I
out.
actually thought about going. I looked it up at one point. The floor seats were $37,000.
Yeah.
For a seat at a fight. I grew up in the Tyson era. There's no way I would pay any amount of money to go see a fight in person because it's 90 seconds. I would be convinced it would be a shitty fight. Not that Tyson's fights were shitty, just nobody could keep up with the guy.
Right.
And he'd have these massive multi-million-dollar purse fights, and Tyson would just beat the shit out of the guy in 90 seconds. Yeah.
The last pay-per-view fight I saw was Tyson Holyfield, and that burned me. Well, it's not like I paid for it. It was my I guess parents or something, but
That
like
was mayhem.
it was mayhem with the biting in the ear and all of that
Mm-hmm.
stuff. And everyone was like, I'm not paying for pay-per-view anymore. It's like, it was because it was this big hyped up thing, and then he's biting ears and everything. So I don't know. That was the last fight I saw. And then when I illegally watched this one, no, I mean, it was all right.
I thought it was a good fight. I mean,
Yeah.
for someone who doesn't watch fights or have anything to do with fights or know what a fight is,
Or would
really,
get his ass kicked in a fight. Yeah.
I was entertained by it.
Yeah.
It's like,
No, boxing fans loved it. I think it lived up to the hype, and
Yeah.
everyone felt that way.
I read this like breakdown on Reddit because a bunch of people were like, "Oh yeah, like he did a good job, like he hung in there," and then everyone was just like, "No, he didn't. Like this is exactly what Mayweather does."
Mayweather
It
just
was
held back.
predictable, like the strategy of boxer versus non-boxer as to how it would go down.
Yeah.
That basically Mayweather actually looked like he was in trouble for about 5 rounds, and then just came back and just beat the
If
shit
you
out of
looked at his feet, though, the entire time, Mayweather's feet versus, McGregor's feet, McGregor, right? Yeah, like Mayweather's feet were always planted. Good feet, that Mayweather. And then
He's got
I
some
like your
practice.
representation.
and then McGregor's feet were just like, he's doing whatever he was doing, and I mean, you just knew that it was gonna end how it did. I think they just stretched it out before the entertainment value.
I'm
It was
not,
absolutely.
I've never done any kind of training in that regard, either boxing or any kind of martial arts before. But it does seem to me that all those years of training is basically just to build muscle memory so that you don't even actually have to make too many decisions, that you just kind of like go, your body just reacts, especially if you're facing someone with equal or greater training, And it must be hard for someone like McGregor, even all the boxing training he's done, it must be hard to fall out of like
That
the
muscle
grappling.
memory.
Yeah.
Do you know that Tyson quote that's everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face?
Yeah.
That is exactly what you're talking about.
Yes.
Because when you get punched in the face, your body goes like, we've got to stop doing whatever we're doing right now because we're getting punched in the face. And then your training as a boxer is to go like, nope, keep the hands up, keep going until this red fades away, and then I can see again.
Move the face out of the way as much as possible. Yeah.
Until the cloud clears, and then I'm back on. Like it's that pure muscle memory that you're talking about. It's like when you get hit in the face and your brain is not thinking about protection anymore; it's just thinking about going away. You have to just your arms know to go up and just to keep doing that thing.
Have you guys ever been knocked out before?
Once, yeah.
Oh, yeah?
So when I used to do kung fu. Have you been knocked out?
Kung fu?
Yeah. You didn't know I did kung fu? I always do my kung fu moves around the office.
Do you really?
No, I don't.
I would pay to see that.
Yeah. I probably just kick over lamps and stuff now. No, I used to do kung fu.
FYI, guys, Max is perfectly fine with us discussing his balls.
Wonderful.
Actually, his response was, ha 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 ha. Yeah, sure.
Ask him if he'll send a
Winky
pic.
face.
Draw us a picture.
How'd you get knocked out?
Well, we used to have when I was in high school, we used to have these garage fights.
I can probably get fired for these texts, right?
I can't tell.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
can't tell if you're lying or not.
We used to have garage fights in high school because that was like, there was street racing and then there was the garage fights.
All right.
And then so the garage fights in high school, we'd get together in the afternoons after school. And some people were in karate, some people were in boxing, some people were in kung fu, some people just wanted to, go
You had
crazy.
very different friends than me.
Yeah, that's what I'm
I mean,
thinking,
I don't
too.
think any of my friends were in karate or boxing.
Chris,
or,
I had a hard life. It was a hard life.
Yeah,
Street
go
racing
on.
for money and boxing. Anyway, so this a friend of mine came who was a boxer, and like I wasn't a boxer, I was a kung fu guy, and
Is that the official name?
that
Kung
was
Fu
the
guy.
kung fu guy, and we're sparring, right? And when you're sparring, you're supposed to, it's light taps, and you're fully padded and all this stuff. Well, of course, I was like, I felt confident with this guy, and I felt confident with my abilities. I see Burnie just give the shake the head.
I'm good. I'm listening. I'm waiting for this text from Max to come back.
And so I felt confident. So I was like, hey, man, give it to me. Give me a punch. And he's like, you sure? I'm like, yeah, man, sure. So we danced around a little more. I opened my arms just a little bit. He sees the opening. Bam, pops my face. I don't remember that. I remember going like, hey, man, give me, full force, blah, blah, blah. And then off the floor going like, what happened? And he goes, you told me to, I'm sorry, man. I didn't mean, I was like, I went from that to this. What happened in between? And I couldn't tell you. I was just black.
Oh,
That's
man.
what happened.
I got knocked out trying to break up a fight.
Really?
Yeah, it was stupid. And but I didn't get knocked out. I always say I've never passed out. I don't remember it like you, but I never like lost my footing. Like I was away, like wandering, but like just not lucid.
You just phased?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was just phased, like you're talking about. Like I got hit like this from behind. That or so I'm told.
That's an RTA, right?
Yeah. And then they even like everyone in the room kind of stopped and everything, and I was just like, and then I was like in the nurse's office.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
That's like a rabbit punch.
Yeah.
Or
And I've been on the other side of that too. In college, I punched a guy, and it was a 1-punch fight. And it was like, it's just amazing. Like, if you land a good shot, it's just like, oh, this is over. You know what I mean? And that's it.
It's the jaw, man.
Why'd you punch him?
I had a stupid college life. And there was a big fight in my front yard. And it was like 10 of my friends and 10 dudes from down the road.
Garage fight?
Fraternity thing. I'm embarrassed to even say it out loud. And they were fighting. And I was on the 3rd floor. And I saw my friend who is... even in college, he was losing his vision, couldn't see very well, And it's like, motherfucker. And I come running on the thing, run across the lawn. I remember I was running right at the guy, and the last thing he said was clearly I was going to punch him. He said the weirdest thing. He goes, I'm sober, and I punched him, and then that
Not
was
for
it.
long.
And it wasn't. But then it turns out it wasn't even the guy I thought it was. That he hadn't had a lock. It was like it was a totally different person.
Saved a stranger.
No, it was a different friend, but just one I didn't like as much. That I wouldn't have risked, bodily harm to go after this guy for. So, yeah.
I'm sober.
I'm
Wow.
sober. Yeah.
That's like his safe word when he yells out. I mean, sometimes you can confuse your attacker if you just throw out some nonsense. you
Yeah.
know? What
So-
if you were just like, well, hold on, and then let's go drink.
Yeah. But it's one of those things where it's like it always sucks when you have a group of friends where like there's one guy who likes to start fights.
Yep.
And then you're
yeah.
you're all fucking on board.
Yep.
Yep.
Oh man.
Or the worst situation of that is, and I think guys deal with it more so with, if the guys have girlfriends in a group, there's always one girlfriend that just like doesn't mind like
Oh my God.
just starting a fight in a bar with a random person, and it's like then you're all dragged into it, you know?
Oh yeah, it goes full. It starts embarrassing because just making a scene or something, or and anybody can do this. It doesn't have to be a girlfriend, could be a boyfriend. There's always that person, that just like, they start making the scene, and at first you're like, okay, this is a little uncomfortable.
Fuck you, assholes.
And then,
It's like,
oh yeah,
shit.
and then it starts escalating, and then you see it gets to this point where you're just like, oh fuck, now I'm involved. Like I have to stop. Like this dude's gonna hit this person, and we need to stop. And then
Yeah.
It's not a problem for me because I have a friend who knows kung fu.
No, dude, I blacked out a couple times.
I gotta defuse the situation with Max. No, don't send me any photos.
I told you, he gets excited about that sort of thing. He just wants to share his balls, I guess, with the world.
Wait, I misspelled don't. Wait,
It says do.
Don't. All right, I'm out of this conversation with Max.
All right.
To be continued. We'll table the discussion on Max.
All right.
Till later.
So I blacked out like twice from skating, just like taking a hit to the head. But then the most recent time where it was like the closest you can get was actually on stream for we did that stack up charity stream,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so we were trying to let's really do it. Like, we're kind of new to Rooster Teeth. Like, let's really get the initiative and raise some money. And so I was like, all right, at like whatever donation, somebody can slap me. And so my mistake is that we're like, all right, we get there and we're like, oh, Nick should do it. Now, Nick is like the kindest human being in the entire world, but Nick has like the reverse Midas touch. Like anything this man touches breaks or goes
Turns to
wrong.
shit.
See, like,
I've had that in my life sometimes. Like it's like an aura where you break electronic stuff specifically.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
But everything, I
Some
mean,
people
like-
have it. Some people have it. I felt like I had it for a year of my life.
I once watched him look at a picture and it fell off the wall and broke. So anyway, they're like, we'll have Nick do it. And so I'm not thinking. And so I'm sitting in this chair and I'm like, okay, here we go. And he's like getting it lined up. And he's like, do you want me to really hit you? I'm like, yeah, I mean, it's for charity. Like, give me a good slap, right? So what actually happens is he's like
show
measuring
on
it.
me.
Yeah, here we
Show
go.
on me.
So he's like measuring it up, right? And then he goes way back. And what actually happens is he comes in and karate chops me
way.
in the fucking
Sideways?
jaw on accident. And so my world got flipped upside down. I was sitting in this chair and it was flash of white. And then I'm suddenly on the floor on my hands and knees and I watched everything just go whoop, and I was just like, nope, like on stream, rein it in. And I like everything balanced back out. And for like the next 2 weeks, I was in this like weird, like fuzzy daze. Like I know I had a concussion.
Right. See, now I've had that. Like I've hit my head more times than I care to remember. I probably don't remember most of them, but I do think the reason why I have never passed out or been knocked out is just out of sheer force of will. And I think that is something to that of like, you're like, this is horrible. I'm just going to go with this and pass out, but I fight that feeling of like losing consciousness.
not letting yourself be taken by the
the
green,
darkness?
It's green for me. It's just green, whatever. I don't know. It's like do you ever get the fuzz that just takes over your vision if you gotten hit? Really
I
hard or
get
something?
that when I get like super, super mad. And I don't get super mad that often anymore. But Chris, I mean,
wanna switch places?
you've seen me before where there's been situations where I get super mad. I used to get more mad when I was CEO. Like just like a lot of like shit like in one basket. And
Now it's
But your
Matt's
vision
problem.
went green when it.
red. Like
You
like
actually
literally
saw red?
see red. See like and like when the people talk about seeing stars, it's like I see like black dots kind of a think
really
Scary.
evil.
I don't know. You're scary when you get mad.
Yeah, I don't think like I've been mad in a really long time.
I can feel Chris is like, Burnie, you get so scared. Man.
Yeah. I don't know. Like I always hear though about like horror stories about executives like throwing shit and doing that.
I have many stories about.
Really?
Well, Chris almost worked for the same guy in advertising when we were like 22. This guy was an absolute madman, and he he may or may not have had a drug problem at one point that made him very excitable.
Okay.
And the guy would do things like. What?
Go ahead. I'm interrupting your story.
Shriveled.
Well, so he had this big office space. It was a multi-million-dollar company, many clients, but his office space was the size of this studio, and all that was there was one desk and a ping pong table. And whenever he got pissed off, he'd throw the ping pong table and come in, and he had things that he knew he would. I think he bought them just because he would break them. You know? So one time he threw. I was on the other side of the room, and he's like, "Did you call that client about that thing?" And I go, "I'm about to. It's about to happen." He's like, "Well, here, maybe you should send an email. Let me help you with that." He grabs my laptop, throws it at
Holy
me from
shit.
across the room, and it shatters against the wall behind me. And I was like, I'll get on that right now, I guess. And Chris thought at the time that I was lying about this stuff. That he was like,
I
"There's
was
no
like,
way."
Aaron likes to make up stories.
What do you
Right.
think happened to his laptop?
Well, that laptop shattered.
But what did Chris think happened to your laptop when you
Oh,
saw this thing?
well, you didn't know about that. I mean,
didn't
you've
know.
seen.
Do you think he was practicing kung fu?
Well, this guy was also the kind of guy who, in my interview, and Chris had this too, when I showed up for the interview, he had told me to show up at this Mexican food restaurant at 2 p.m. sharp.
Okay.
So I show up there, it's closed. And I'm like, what the fuck? And then the manager comes out and goes, "Are you Aaron?" And I go, "Yeah." And he goes, I'll just say, "Bob is in the back." And I go, "Okay." This guy is sitting at this 10-person table at this booth, but he's in the back of it. So there's, between you and me, Burnie, like that's how much space is.
I love it. I
between-
literally just did a vlog making fun of stuff like this.
I swear it's real, and I have confirmation from others. He goes, "Aaron, I've been reading about you. I know everything about you." And I go, How do you know everything about
Aaron,
me?"
you had an out. You should have
get
seen.
He goes,
Warning signs.
"You want to see?" He opens up this tomb of this huge book. He slides it over across the table to me, and I look at it, and it's an astrology book, and it's turned to my birthday because he had asked me my birthday before. And he goes, "I know everything."
Good
Go ahead and
I've been
read that
reading about
passage
you."
right there.
He goes, "Read that passage right there." So I start reading it, and he goes, "Out loud." And I go, "Aquarius are sometimes known for their predicate." He's like, no, get to the weaknesses. And I go, defiant something. And he goes, ooh, that's not good for our business. That's not good at all. And he'd already read them, so he knew. Like, he was just making sure I knew. And he goes, "Turn to July 28th. And I go, "Okay."
Who's July 28th? He's July 28th?
Why did
Turn
you
July
change the
28th.
job?
And the weakness, he goes, "Why would I hire someone with these weaknesses?"
Yeah, he goes, why would I hire someone with these weaknesses? I was like, and before I could even answer, he said, "Turn July 28th. So I turned to it, and he goes, "Read it." And I was like, "Okay." Out loud, "Okay." And he goes, no, skip to the weaknesses. So I get to the weaknesses, and it says, panicked, disturbed, volatile. And I read it, and I was like, he goes, "Oh, man, panicked, disturbed, volatile. That guy sounds like a real fucking nut, right?" And he just starts, there's no one in the restaurant, and he's laughing about this.
God.
And I go, "Yeah, man, that's pretty crazy." He's like, "What do you want to make your first year, your second year, and your third year?" And I said, I hadn't thought about this. I said, this, and this. And he goes, "That's more than I paid anyone before. What are you doing? Can you show up Monday?" And I was like, what is this job? Like,
Holy
it's
shit,
just
man.
an
I
advertising
want
job.
this job now. This guy sounds amazing.
And when I showed up to his office on Monday, not knowing if I actually had a job or not, he was not there, but the office was unlocked. And I walked in, and he didn't show up for an hour. And then when he showed up, he talked to me and he said, "You're going to lose me money for the next year. Like, you are worthless to me right now for a year." And I could go on about this, but I had that boss that you're talking about.
That's amazing,
The
dude.
craziness. And Chris almost came on board because I was like, I got to bring someone in to help me. Like, because
Survive.
Brought him in.
Well,
Well, it was one of the. It's
Why?
like-
Because you can outrun him? In an emergency?
you know when the gazelles are,
Yeah.
Take the weak one.
I don't know Kung Fu.
yeah.
sober.
Well, I brought Chris. I was like, Chris, because Chris needed a job too. Yeah, this was like 2010, and
This is right out of. This is before actually I graduated.
Chris, we share a birthday. What's our weakness?
I don't know. I guess I don't remember.
Memory.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
he would have told you that.
That's an awesome meta joke.
But it was one of those things. It was like I was talking to Aaron, and I was like, "Well," and he's like, "There's a job opening." I was like, "I'll call." And I filled out the email, and I get a phone call like 10 minutes later, and he's like, and he starts talking to me and asking me all these questions. He's throwing out like long like multiplication, like what's 13 times
27.
16? Yeah.
And he's like, just don't use calculator, just think about it. And then
you're
you
like,
say some answer, and he's like, "Yeah, that sounds right." He didn't know either, but he wanted to see how you'd respond.
This is what always depresses me about conversations like this. I love hearing about a guy like this out there. But the thing that depresses me is I feel like I'm not crazy enough. Like, I'm leaving so much on the table. Like, clearly you'll put up with that. I don't consider like 1/10 of that. I can do so much more like awful, horrible stuff. I totally could do that.
I like in an interview when your prospective boss says, and yeah, if there's a plate of cocaine from me right now, I'd probably sniff it up, but I don't do that anymore.
What?
And you go, okay, I didn't say you did, man. He's like, well, good.
Can we get this
Let's
guy?
move on. You know, like, what?
Can we get this guy on the
alive?
podcast?
No, you don't want to bring that kind of energy. And that's bad energy.
Wow, that's fucking hilarious, dude.
Yeah.
So how long did you work for the guy?
I don't know, 6 months, 8 months, maybe 6. This was this was 2009. This is when everything went bad, you know, recession wise and all this stuff. There was nothing to do. Like, as far like we just graduated and it was like, oh, a job in advertising. Great. And so I jumped on it. And it was the most insane thing I'd ever jumped on. This guy, one more thing, talking about craziness. He had a filing cabinet full of cash in his place, not locked or anything.
Sometimes you do that.
It's like 50 grand in his filing cabinet, but it was just for games. So the games were, you know, those little things with the metal balls that you try and roll around and get them into the little divots.
Yeah, Labyrinth.
Labyrinth type games. He'd get out 2 of those, and he goes,
I'm like 80 years old. It's like the only game I had growing up was that.
Well,
Because it was wood.
yeah, these wood or these little plastic ones, right?
Gotcha, okay.
And so
That's after my time.
when plastic was available.
Then kick the can.
But he'd get them out and he'd go, first one to get them all in, $1,000. I was like,
Holy shit.
I can't do that. He's like, you win, I give you $1,000. I win, we keep playing. I'm like, okay. So I won the first time. He's like, double or nothing. And I'm like, oh, okay, sure. I mean, I guess there's no stakes. And then he was like, no, you're going to clean my car if I win the second
That's
time.
not
I was like,
nothing.
right.
Yeah.
But it was to win $2,000. So I was like, oh, okay.
Sure.
And so I won again, and he goes, that's not going to happen every time. And so he goes to the filing cabinet and he gives me 2. Did you experience that?
No, because I got offered the job, and then I turned it down because I was
So
like,
you're smart.
one I knew from Aaron's stories. Also,
Wait a minute. Wait, hold. I got to put a pin in that for just 1 second. Did you get $2,000?
Yes, I got $2,000.
He gave it to you?
He gave me $2,000 in cash.
I would never do that.
I know.
See,
Okay,
that's
so
the
you got to
downside.
get crazier.
I could just keep going double or nothing until you lose. That's the thing. If you never pay out, what does it matter? That's
Yeah.
Gavin's strategy for betting. Just double it down.
See, that's what I was about to say. It sounds like that's just like being in the Achievement Hunter office. Like, I'll go over there and they'll have some ridiculous bet of like that's just been going on in their office. Like, oh, you see that hole in the ceiling? They're like, here's this bat. Take this ball, and if you get hit in the hole, you get $100. And I'm just like,
It's the stuff of
it's a
madmen.
weird place that they live in.
By the way, history of Achievement Hunter office of people in that room not paying off their bets happened to me again. Now, my 3rd time. I walked in there. They were bouncing a ball off the wall into a little bitty cup on top of a trophy that was in the center of all their desks. And they've been doing it for 4 hours. And they gave me the ball, and I just went, boom, and it goes right in, and it went in the cup. But the cup's so small that it went in the cup, rolled around, and then popped out. And they were like, that doesn't count. I'm like, are you fucking shitting me? It went straight into the cup.
Wow.
You know,
What was the bet?
I think they were $100.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what happened? No $100. Your crazy boss gives out $2,000 for playing a little marble game. These guys never pay their bets.
It was just, and he was like, and if you, and he'd say things like, if you steal from me, I won't know. And I go, okay. Like, what is that? Why would you even say it?
Oh, I know,
Like,
I know exactly why. He would know, and he's just waiting. Like, he probably dreams of the scenario where he would catch an employee stealing from him and could go off the handle.
he would
don't
say,
think he cared.
he
I
would
really
do
don't.
things to set you up to yell at you.
Yeah.
Or like because and Aaron has a lot more stories because I got offered the job and then decided not to do it because I wanted to do film stuff, and he also sounded crazy. But it's like went to the same Mexican restaurant, same thing, same table, big thing. Restaurant was closed.
What's the weaknesses? We have the same birthday. We gotta remember.
I gotta
this.
find his big book. But we sat down and we're talking, and he's like, "All right, well, you know, like, well, what can I get you to drink? You know, like, what would you know, what are you feeling this morning?" I was like, I guess I'll have a margarita." Then if you know, he's like, "You show up to an interview, you want a margarita?" I was like, he was like, "I would like to buy you a drink."
Right.
And it was like the context was alcoholic, and then you answer, and he's like, why are you buying an alcoholic drink at an interview? I'm like, I thought you wanted. I was trying to be polite.
It's all mind games. It's beautiful mind games.
That sounds terrifying.
Yeah, no, I have fever dreams sometimes about it. It's pretty bad. He also did this thing where he always had the newest whatever car, and he left the keys in it and left it unlocked. And he said if it gets taken, I get another one.
Hi, good Lord.
It's what he did. Did he ever tell? I don't know if
How
ever
did he
told you
make
that.
all this money?
I can't say too much about it because then people will be able to figure out. It's
Okay.
something that you would never imagine in a million years having to do with advertising. That is a fucking cash cow. It's you make so much money and you run a small thing. It's not. It's like no, I can't get
You're
into it.
tiptoeing right. We got it.
Yeah, please, yeah.
Yeah. Otherwise, he'll
You know,
show
it's one of those things. It sounds like a conversation with the kind of person where it's like you just fast forward and you're having a conversation with cops like in the parking lot, and they're saying, "Well, technically, we can't arrest him for anything," like that kind of thing. Where it's like he's not doing anything wrong. I mean, he's just like throwing a laptop. You could probably say something about that, but you weren't hit by the laptop. He just destroyed his own laptop at the end of the day, and it's
Yeah, it's his property. He also asked me to fire people, even though
that's
he
the
was
best.
supposed to do that. Like,
How would he not? It seems like he would love that. That's
well,
like,
Yeah, right?
He didn't. There was an employee who liked him, this employee, and he was like, I know she likes me. But she looks like a marshmallow in a dress, and I'm not going to do anything about
Oh
it.
my
Lord, dude.
God.
Good
And
Lord,
he goes,
dude.
"You got to fire her, Aaron." And I
Good
go,
fucking Lord.
I have to fire her. And he's like, yeah, and do it by the end of the day. He told me the restaurant to go to, and he's like, do it there, pay for dinner, use my card, you know the number, and then, do it by the end of the day. And so I was like, okay, I was just 22 or 23.
How many
I never
months have you been
fired
working
him.
there?
Yeah, it sounds like he really liked him, right? It sounds like this boss immediately took a shine to Aaron and was like, keys to the kingdom.
In a weird way, he was like a mentor. In a scary, not everything he said, but he had some interesting life lessons,
Dude,
like,
so many
on.
pieces just fell into place. So many pieces.
But I was sitting in this restaurant with this girl who I was supposed to fire. She's a great person, and she didn't do anything wrong. And so anyway, I'm sitting. It's a very nice restaurant, and I go, I hate to tell you this, Bob wants you gone, and she bawled like in the middle of this restaurant, like I had just fired someone for the first time ever. It was in the middle of the restaurant, and it was at the beginning of the meal. And so
What is your timing?
Yeah.
Did you finish
You're
the
now
meal?
stuck there.
And
Did
it
you
was-
finish the meal? Did she stick out the meal?
Yeah, we both stuck it out.
Good God.
And got dessert and
I didn't know I was like 22, and it was
But then she ordered a margarita, and I was like, what the fuck?
And then I read her horoscope.
I know, right? They need to update the book for your birthday, but timing is also a weakness.
Oh my god.
I can't be dead. So guess what? We have a special guest in the sidecar.
Oh no, I didn't see him sneak in.
I just like to cut to Max. So Max, we're not really sure how this came up.
I was wondering how it came up.
I don't remember how it
Pretty
came
sure
up.
we were talking about the hair dildo thing, and then you just threw it out there.
It came up. It came up recently, and it was just something that somebody mentioned very casually about you, that you're very well endowed, but they were very specific about your balls.
Yeah.
First of all, are you comfortable talking about this?
I mean, we're already here. We're here.
should've just been like, no.
I'll add a layer of mystery and privacy by saying I won't talk about my dick. I'll just.
Oh, that was good. Okay,
Cool.
fair. That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
Okay.
But no, I always like whenever I saw porn, like I was like, why does everybody have such small balls? I didn't get it, and then it was just like I came out around 22, or like I only did like stuff for the first time with like another guy at like 22, and I was just always like, wow, small balls over there, and
Look at these hands.
Watch your head.
came to learn that and I have made almost zero considerations whenever I'm wearing pants. So there's just days whenever like people are kind enough not to mention it, I guess, but there's days where it's like, I guess I'm like walking around and it's like just it's like just all there, like kind of bunched up.
Is
Or
it
working
above
working
the-
its way.
Yeah, it
Like-
just makes it look like whoa.
Is it over
like
the
that dude's
penis?
packing. It's
Does it cover the penis and fold over the
Aaron had this
penis?
theory about.
I mean, like it's just there's a lot to go.
Oh.
I mean, yeah, it
Not what I wanted.
is it a sack thing or a ball thing?
Yeah,
Like,
Chris
both.
is really specific about this.
both.
It's
yeah.
just like the whole.
Yeah, I mean, like if the normal testicles are grapes, I don't know, like what's between a grape and
Cantaloupe.
golf ball?
Avocado.
Yeah, more golf ball. Yeah.
Are they
Grape to golf ball?
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense. I don't
Yeah.
know. I think grapes.
People like grapes.
Are they long?
You got that long ball?
Yeah, and there's not really anything you can. There's not really anything you can do. Like, there's not really any sort of like advantage you get there. There's no like
They dimpled like golf balls.
They have the same aerodynamics as golf balls.
You know, they do not. And
Do you? Let me ask you, and this
Yeah.
is honest. Mm-hmm. When you flush a toilet, do they swirl around in the water?
It's called Poseidon's Kiss.
Can we
right?
stop laughing for 1 second?
Come on, serious discussion.
I'm asking
Serious
a serious question.
you know, maybe once.
A week?
That's enough for me.
Maybe once a day. No. Yeah, it's like not really. It's the weirdest thing to learn, and then also like now, what do you do with that information? There's like nothing to do with
Well,
it.
you
on a
talked
podcast.
about the first time you were with a guy.
Yeah.
And you said, go out, a little disappointment. Is it fair to say?
Well, yeah, I was just kind of like, what's the deal?
Yeah. It's like, oh, poor baby.
Where's the show?
And I was like, maybe like all these porn stars are using like steroids or something, like
Shrinking their
supposed to
balls.
shrink your balls.
But the flip side of that is for you is like the first time you're with somebody new, this is like, you know what's coming. Like, you're like, it's gotta be a fun reveal, right?
I guess so, but it's like it's just not even something that like really is discussed. I mean, I don't think I've ever like really discussed it hardly at all.
Well, that
other
changed
than
tonight.
Now
Getting that out of the
to
way.
the entire world. But yeah, I mean, it's not like they're not like weird looking. They're not like like
Well, we'll be the judge of that.
lopsided or something. It's just kind of like
Wondering what that reveal is the equivalent of. Like, if I went to a friend's house and I opened their fridge and it was full of broccoli, like it was just completely full of broccoli, I'd be like, man, that's a lot of broccoli. But I don't really care. Like, I don't
You know,
I don't
yeah,
like
I mean-
broccoli necessarily, but that's impressive that there's so much in one place.
Well, I mean, too, it's like the big general things. Like guys are much more focused on that than anybody else, right?
Yeah.
Guys are way more focused on that. And if you're with guys, that's your demo, right? I mean, that's
Yeah.
like,
I guess, but like you never see like on like the websites like increase your ball size. It's not like that same sort of mystique
That
there.
GIF would be so great on the sidebar, just like,
Yeah, they balloon out horribly photoshopped.
You know how it's always like
bike
it's always the girl looking like with like the pulling on the dude's boxers like looking going like like it'd be great if that was for a ball.
he just moves
all
up
right,
his pants.
I want on record, I'm going to Pornhub for the podcast.
Oh,
That's on
great.
record. I'm going to look up big balls.
That's why I went there last night
Category.
too.
Is that even a
All right, I should turn off my mute my thing.
no.
There we go. Okay.
Thanks so much for having me on today. This
Let
is
me
fun.
see what the autocompletes on big are. Let's see how far down balls are. You are below big ass Latinas. You're below
Damn it,
big
they
booty
win
white
again.
girls.
Not bad.
Well, who's big dick bitch? What is that? Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's
It's not a
what-
person. It's a category. Sorry,
exactly
big
what-
dick bitch.
That's exactly
Got
what
it.
you think it is.
Got it.
I love his work.
Pretty much what you read is what you get on those sites.
Yeah, there's a whole category on it. There's a whole category on it.
Big balls?
Yeah.
wow.
You're gonna have to take my word for it. I'm sure no one else is gonna go look
Don't
it up.
Google it.
Yeah,
look
you
it up.
know. You know
Fallback
they're gonna
plan.
right away.
Yeah,
Well,
fall back.
They do, average circumference and average length of, penises and stuff like. Do they? They don't really do studies like that for testicles. do
It's
they?
an unexplored research field, and we're actually all chipping in to learn. The
Though I think
benefits.
it'd be easier to weigh, though. You just set
True.
them on the scale.
They don't vary as much either. It's not like there's the erect side.
Oh yeah, there's no flaccid balls.
no.
I guess there's only just full or empty.
But it does
Full or
make
empty.
Does that vary? Does that change the weight?
I don't think so.
Well, the cold and stuff like that.
No. Like
After you
Arousal?
ejaculate.
no.
After you,
If you weighed your balls pre-orgasm and post-orgasm, would they weigh less?
Oh, I see what you're saying. I'm sorry. I thought we were in a cold
yeah,
discussion.
it
Yeah.
doesn't do.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's got to
Probably.
come somewhere, but it's like it's an insignificant amount of
Well,
weight. I would-
Speak for yourself, bro.
you can look him up. It's Big Dick Bitch.
I wasn't talking about fire hose Crumpkey over here. that's a little bit different of a scenario for everybody. All right, well, Max, thank you for sharing such a personal detail, which we're all
know-
fascinated by. We wish you well in your journey.
It's gonna be. Glad that we could put this on the internet. I'm sure it'll never pop back up.
Never, ever.
Can we get an
wanna-
RTAA?
Yeah, I'll call the Fine Brothers. I just thought of a new reaction video they can do.
I would say the one thing I didn't tell you about was that running without
Yeah, I was going to ask you problems. Like,
running without briefs is just no.
It doesn't help you
Absolutely
build
not.
extra momentum to go extra fast.
No, it's like
Who the fuck runs without briefs?
was that hitting your leg?
what's that?
Was that hitting your leg or each other?
Yeah. Like, but I mean, it's just all around,
Really?
going everywhere.
Wacky inflatable.
yeah, wacky
Noodle man.
just
Wacky inflatables.
So is it just is underwear enough to cage the beast, or do you need like special like
Sports bra?
sports bra? When you're in the art department, you can make something. That,
Yeah,
you know.
no. I mean, like you get to have the fun briefs. You
No,
know?
I don't know. I don't know. I wish I knew, but
What? Like,
yeah.
like cute briefs. Not like the the normal Hanes Grand.
Oh, like you can't go boxers. You got to get like a little
yeah,
sport.
you can't run in boxers. It's just not gonna happen.
So you're telling me you can't wear like a normal pair of like tighty whities?
No, I mean like a can, but it's just like whenever I'm like trying to run or do something, like trying to move around, like you want him to kind of like.
Oh, so we
Yeah.
should find out his birthday and put that as weaknesses.
Two of his weaknesses I know, but the other one I don't.
The dope. Max, thank you so much. Thank you. Love you.
Thank you, everybody.
Bring in the next witness.
Yeah.
See, that's you're making fun of your previous job and interviews and stuff like that. If we sat down with Max when he's interviewing, he's an artist. We bring him into work in the art department. It's like, oh, and at some point, we might want to bring you on the podcast and talk to an audience of about 1 million people about your balls. How do you feel about that?
Where do I sign?
Yeah.
You'd be like, why is there no one else in this restaurant?
Man. So it's funny that he mentioned that he kind of discovered that a little bit because of watching porn, right? So amongst our group of friends growing up, we had the discussion. It was like, oh, who's circumcised and who's not, right? And and our slang for that was like they called it the doghouse club because it's like a doghouse.
Wait,
Don't worry about it.
sorry,
What?
you lost me.
Okay.
With the penis in the doghouse thing.
So uncircumcised dogs in the house, right?
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
dogs in the house. Anyway, so it got all thrown out there one day because being kids and whatever, and so this one guy always was like, "Oh yeah, doghouse club," right? We had this other friend. It's really weird. He would just go off in the other room and start watching porn, even though like we were all hanging out. It was really strange. Anyway, so one
You didn't
day
have to call me out like that. That's okay.
So one day we go walking in to just be like, all right, stop watching porn, let's go do something. And our friend who's always been in the doghouse club goes, "What's wrong with that dude's dick?" And then we're like, "What? That's an uncircumcised penis." And he was just like, "Holy shit!" And we literally watched on that spot. He always thought that he was uncircumcised when he was circumcised. And
What?
he learned it right there in that room.
He learned it.
Yes.
What in the world? How old was he?
Oh man, probably 16.
Good Lord, dude. You guys are all watching porn together. Wait a minute.
Hanging out.
No, other guy, weird guy, would go off and watch porn. We'd be hanging out in the living room, and I don't know why he would do it. It was really strange. And so, we wanted to go skate. So, we went to go and be like, "Stop watching porn, let's go." And that's when our other friend saw. I was like, "What's wrong with that dick?" 'Cause
You
it's
all
got all the extra
piled in the
skin.
door like a sitcom,
Let me see.
all at once.
Yeah,
Well, there's I don't think I can name the person by name because he probably has told this story himself on the air. But there's it's a bunch of there's some of our groups that are almost entirely dudes, and so it's like I said, guys are obsessed with genitals. One guy told a story about he used to play on a soccer team, and a guy on the soccer team was known as having a really big dick.
Okay.
And this guy that we know was like really obsessed with it and everything. And apparently he just started telling the story. It's one of those things where some people tell the story. It's like, okay, go ahead. Where he told a story where when the soccer team would do well, they would all get together at the end and he would show it to them. Like that was
Here's your prize.
that
Behold.
was like,
Whoa, yeah. Wait.
and essentially, he's gonna get so mad at me for telling the story wrong, I'm sure. But essentially, the way he walked me through it was really cool at first in the moment, but then later he would just be upset because he would be depressed that his dick wasn't this enormous monster.
It wasn't cool in the moment. Look at that thing. Everybody.
Wow.
It was such an odd reinforcement technique for an intramural squat.
It's like the Pulp Fiction thing, like their faces glow golden when he pulls down his pants and they're like, it's going to be a good year.
Oh my God. Yeah. So it was like the weirdest thing. At first I thought I misunderstood the story, but I don't think I did.
Wow.
Can you see its shadow? That's when you know it'll be a good year.
Jesus.
All right, before we move on, I have to read this. I'm always late on reading ads, and Gus is way better than I am. All right, this episode of the Rooster Podcast is brought to you by. Good Lord, sorry everybody for that. I had to do that for a moment. So.
No worries.
All right, so what are we going to talk about? We should probably talk about what's going on in Texas with Hurricane Harvey, right? Because it's been going on now for. We were pre-recording this podcast because of Labor Day, but it's been going on for over a week.
Yeah,
and
week and a
I'm
half.
glad to see finally the rain in Houston has just stopped, because I've been in flooding before. I said this on Twitter. When you're dealing with flooding and you're trying to get water out of your house, but it won't stop raining outside, it's just the most demoralizing feeling in the entire world. And I'm sure you guys have seen images that have come out of, South Texas and in Houston, and it's just it's unprecedented.
My mom was dealing. I mean, it was the same. I was just about to say demoralizing is exactly it, because she. Well, here's what happened. I think it was when it made landfall, whatever day that was it Thursday or Friday or something like that? But anyway, she was like, "Oh, it's no big deal. It's like we're great." Blah 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 blah. By Saturday, I get this call at like 2 a.m. She's like, "Aaron, our first floor's underwater," and I was like, what? Because immediately those images come to mind of, people stranded on the roofs and all that stuff. And I was like, are you okay? Blah, blah, blah. She's like, well, the generator flooded. We don't have power. Luckily we have water upstairs and stuff like that. But I mean, I was surprised.
Running water, you mean, not actual water upstairs.
Right. Yeah, she had bottled water or whatever. And I mean, it was the craziest thing, because in her words, she was like, we are the people that you see on TV, which I was like, wow, that's because it's so easy to disconnect and disassociate, because, those are disaster people, those people are on their roofs, blah, 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 blah. And then your mom's like, no, we're right there. That's us. Yeah, it was pretty bad. It still is bad, and people are dealing with a lot of stuff, but,
it's always just amazing to me on a scientific level with this is you see the pictures of the flooding, and it's water up to the street signs, and it covers a huge area, square miles, all this water. And to me the utterly incredible, fascinating thing about that is all that water came out of the sky. That water was in the sky. In a weird way, the ground is less capable of handling that amount of water than the sky is. And it's just like, it's insane to think about that trillions of gallons of water just like somehow made it into the sky and then poured down and destroyed like an entire city, and for a week at a time too.
I think they said it could run Niagara Falls for a couple weeks or something like that.
Some of the flows because I've learned it's one of those things when a crisis, you start learning all these new terms that you never knew before. And they were talking about terms for like flow in a river and like some of these runoff from reservoirs. And there was one that was like, it was the equivalent of Niagara Falls in terms of gallons per second or gallons per minute. And it's just like, that was just one like tributary that was coming out of this thing.
Man, well, what I heard for us here was they said that like we got a year's worth of rain in a week.
Oh, for Austin.
Yeah.
Yeah. And honestly,
and we didn't get it that bad.
You just moved from Dallas just recently.
Yeah.
And so we've dealt with that a couple times in the last few years. I went on a rant on the podcast years ago about all the hipsters in Austin talking about lake levels. When the lake was dropping, it was like 50%. All the homes out at the lake, which we don't really talk about the lake much on the podcast, because in Austin there's like a couple different cultures, and lake cultures, like we don't have anybody who's in lake culture.
No, we're not lake people.
We're not really not. We never. It's like whenever we go out and do stuff, we never go out to the lake to do stuff. But the homes that were out there, they just like the property values were just plummeting because it was just like what was a beautiful lakefront was now a big like gravel front
or like mud kind of stuff.
And it was awful, like mosquitoes and everything else that was out there. And then after years of drought, it's like this will never change, and this is like now permanently the lakes are going to be down. It just started raining in 2015. It started raining in like February, and it didn't finish raining until May. It filled all of our lakes right back up. And you can go see those photos, like those before and after photos of drought stuff in California. They show lakes, and then 6 years later, there's like nothing. It's just like a sandy floor desert, basically, with a bridge over it.
Speaking of the houses, my friend in Houston sold his house 12 days before the hurricane hit. And the house, he talked to the people he sold it to, completely flooded and ruined.
Oh, my God.
I'm on the flip side of that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I don't know if you ever heard me talk about it before. The house I'm in now, I bought it on Friday, and it flooded on Monday on Memorial Day. Yeah. And it was like complete. I bought the house. One of the things I didn't want to do like a renovation project. So I bought something that was kind of like pretty much the way I
Ready
wanted
to go,
it.
yeah.
First day, literally the first day, it flooded about that deep in water, and I had to like tear out the floors. It wasn't much. I mean, a little bit got in, but it was enough to where if any water gets on the floors,
Yeah.
But
done.
even baseboard, like
crazy.
the baseboard of the wall and stuff, you have to
Yeah.
tear that stuff out
Yep.
usually.
Yeah.
You know?
I
And
did.
if it
like-
gets up into the insulation, it's a huge pain in the ass.
Is that
to
Lake
rip out
Travis,
the
Patrick?
drywall.
Oh man.
yeah, that's what Lake Travis used to look like just a few years ago, and now that would be just completely filled with water. It's like all filled back up. We're at 100%. I sound like a lake level hipster.
Yeah, I was gonna say, are you sure you're not into lake culture?
We're at 100% now. It's a 150% chance partying this weekend.
Yeah. Well, no, but I am fascinated by weather. I mean, weather is like we're all at the mercy of weather, and it's interesting that how little control we have over that. You know, it's like if there's a hurricane and it becomes this massive thing, like Katrina coming towards New Orleans, now Harvey coming towards the Gulf Coast of Texas. There's nothing we could do about it. Like there's literally like if there was an invading army, we could do something about that. We just have to kind of like just wait.
Just
and
run.
Yeah.
And also, once you're in that thing, you're like, well, how do people in floodwaters, like, how do they drown? How do they do blah, blah, blah? It's like,
Oh, God.
you don't understand until you're around an overpass that's flooded or some sort of like, gutter or something like that that's sucking in water. Like, my high school coach passed in the storm Saturday because he was helping people.
Oh, man.
And he was sucked away and he was gone. And people were like, well, where did he go? You know, he's missing since last Saturday. And they found him. Like, this guy was like 6'5", strong
Yeah.
dude, awesome guy. RIP Coach Jordan. But he was helping people, and he got taken away too. You know, and it's way more powerful than you are.
And some
Yeah.
of the biggest disasters in the world have involved water. You know, the mass volume water, like the tsunamis that hit in Indonesia, you know, and in the Maldives, and that was brutal. Just like you're in a place where you're not dealing with water, and then suddenly you're waist deep. I think if you go up to your knees in water, that's when you basically no longer have control over it. If the water wants to take you somewhere,
It will.
You just physically, nobody of any size or any level of strength is going to be able to do anything above that level. And you can see people were chest high or at least waist high in most of the stuff in Houston. Hey, Patrick, if you guys could look up the Shoal Creek Saloon from a couple years ago.
Oh, man.
They have the security cam footage of, we just had a creek that just like basically overflowed and then flooded like a 2-block area
12th
downtown.
Street and stuff,
Yeah,
right?
12th
Yeah.
and Lamar. And that was interesting because we had a football stadium that kind of went underwater. That looked like,
Yeah, it was just a lake there. It's like right under the Lamar or Enfield Bridge or whatever it was.
but it gives you a feeling, this footage gives you a feeling of just like, how are these people get trapped in their homes or whatever? How does this happen? It's like, it slowly builds up over time, but then all of a sudden it gets bad very, very quickly. And you can just see, like, if we can find the security cam footage that they posted online, you can see just like how quickly things go wrong.
Yeah, and he was talking about the people getting sucked down or whatever. I remember seeing this thing on Reddit that like totally changed because you do initially have this thing of like, oh whatever, it's just like some water, like at first.
Yeah.
And I watched this Reddit of so this guy was walking. And there was just a manhole cover, which
Oh,
had gotten
man, that's
swept
one of my
away.
fears.
And it was just terrifying because this dude is walking. It looks like the water's like, it's like ankle deep. And then it's just gone because there was a manhole cover that had gotten pulled away. And so all the water's trying to pour into there, but it's high enough so that he couldn't see it going. And he was just walking and then just gets pulled down. And now he's stuck in the sewers. And it's just like, that shit horrified me.
Yeah. So here's the footage we have. This is a saloon that's just right by the creek. And you can see you can hear the rain outside. And the water's been building up. And there it goes.
Bam.
Oh my God.
This water just comes flooding and fills the whole place up, takes all the furniture out. Like, there's a sign, I guess, going through there. It's like, you would have no time to react to that.
No.
And imagine
Yeah,
if
if
you're
you were-
elderly.
Yeah.
It's like, this is a lot of the stories you see about people trapped. And that's chest high.
And it's
by the point.
churning.
Yeah.
It's like violently churning. It's white capping,
Yeah.
in there. Man, it's like,
And that was a creek that overflowed in Austin about 2 years ago on Memorial Day.
Yeah. it seems like that, like,
insane.
like, I don't know, it's weird, but I have this weird fear of being in a boat that capsizes and turns upside down, and then you think you're going up, but you're not really. You're going into the bowels of the ship.
Yeah.
And like as it's going down, and
That's
like
a very specific fear.
I have a lot of
Have you
specific
s-
fears.
I mean, there's a lot it's in a lot of movies.
I mean,
like
well,
this.
because it happened, it's happened a lot since, shipping and stuff like that. But like, man, that kind of that swirling water and stuff just reminds me of just being trapped in those kinds of
Well,
situations.
and there's a lot of really great stories of humanity and, people reaching out to each other. Did you grow up in the Houston area?
Yeah, southeast Houston.
There's a great guy. I just want to call out. There's a guy that I grew up watching. He's a local businessman. He always sponsored everything, like sponsored even like the shitty wrestling shows back in the late 80s that I watched. His name is Mattress Mac.
Mattress Mac,
He
yeah.
runs Gallery Furniture in Houston. And he has gotten some national notoriety because when this happened, he turned his delivery trucks loose to be rescue vehicles. He opened all of his furniture stores where people could come as a shelter.
that.
Yeah, that's him. And this guy's just like, he's like this legend in Houston that if you grew up in Houston, you know Mattress Mac and you love this guy. And it's so interesting to see other people discover him. He's just this complete humanitarian.
I saw National Guard people sleeping on his mattresses, I think. And, you know, it's just, you know, they're covered in mud, blah, 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 and just all, I mean, it looked like the nicest barracks you'd ever seen because it's just pillow top mattresses and these National Guards people.
And this guy, like, who built a business from nothing. Like, he has this furniture empire in Houston. And he would, while he had this, like, Mattress Mac identity, he would, like, literally go out in a mattress, where, like, carved the part out for his face, and he would, like, wear a mattress and go around in it. Like, he just would do anything to promote his business, you know?
Yeah.
That was the catchphrase, going to save you money.
yeah,
And he
I'm going to save you money.
And he had a handful of money to show you.
He always seemed like he just, I don't know,
super passionate.
Super passionate guy.
Dude. You know what? I understand. I might be misremembering this, but I think he was like executive produced the Chuck Norris movie with the kids in it. What was that called? Do you remember
The
that?
one where the kid's dreaming of Chuck Norris.
Sidekicks.
Oh,
Yeah.
Sidekicks.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure that's him. Yeah, like he just got interested in like making movies and was like, you know, he's just
No
like,
way.
Well, it's just like you totally expected to like this like down to earth dude is just like he's a big Chuck Norris fan. You know what I mean? It just like makes sense to me.
Well,
you
Chuck
know?
Norris was always running around Houston for a while there, and he was, you know, any kind of big business owner, I'm sure, would meet him and be like, and Chuck Norris is like, I got this movie I'm going to be in. It needs mattresses. You know?
I should look it up. I don't actually know what Mattress Max Jim McInvale.
He provided the crash pads. And it's just a bunch of mattresses.
These are double pillow top. Save you money. Yeah, no, there was a lot of reaching out, and it's been, man, it's been nice to see these, you know, all the pictures coming out of it, and just people helping each other. Some of the pictures, though, and you've probably seen, you guys have seen this picture before. Every time there's a flood anywhere or hurricane or anything like that, people Photoshop the shark in the water, like
Yeah.
going down the road, and every time it's like, and look, there's bull sharks on I-10. It's like, fucker, since like 99 or something,
Yeah.
since Photoshop was around, they always put the sharks, you know, in the water. It's like, I just, you know,
Yeah, if people are having enough trouble and that they don't need that.
they don't need sharks.
They
in
don't
the
need
water.
that, and also you're not seeing a foot and a half down in floodwater. You know,
Right.
it's like runoff water. It's got tons of dirt in it, among other things. You know, you're not going to be able to see to the bottom and see a shark like swimming around. It's not
Right.
going to
It's
happen.
just like a great white looking shark.
but-
just,
Like, that's
people.
the kind of shit that gets my mom all the time. Because, like, she's, like, her technological achievement over the past few years is that she uses Facebook now. And there's so much fake news stories and pictures and things that get posted to there that she thinks are real. Like, she'll send me an Onion article, and I'm like, Ma, Onion, it's not real. Don't. It's
What's
for-
the one
but-
that where it's like there's some story that went around for a while that if you could jump really high on a certain day because gravity on Earth was going to be less.
Oh, yeah.
That was like a real thing, and I remember someone was telling me about it. It's like, yeah, you know, it's coming up. We're gonna be able to jump really high that day.
so dumb. Only you could do something nice for people on those days, Chris.
Yeah.
You could get them some flowers from Pro Flowers while they hit their personal record in jump height. This episode of the Rooster Teeth podcast is brought to you by Pro Flower. Thanks to Pro Flowers for supporting the podcast.
We should get.
I-
Oh, God.
I had to really. It's really hard not to make a bukkake joke.
Well, good thing you didn't. Now they have one more thing to edit.
yeah.
Good Lord,
You know,
Chris, what's wrong with you?
We should get Max some flowers.
What's that?
We should get Max some flowers.
I think I don't know if I don't know if he's the kind of guy who would like
Mattress Mac?
wouldn't want you to do anything for him. You know, he's like such a giving person. It seems like.
Max.
Oh, Max.
Oh, get
Yeah.
Max. I thought you meant Mattress
Yeah,
Mac.
I was
Oh,
like,
sorry.
yeah.
Yeah. Let's get Max some flowers.
Yeah,
I like
we'll
that.
get Max some flowers.
Yeah, he contributed heavily to today's podcast.
You know,
Emphasis on the heavily.
weighted.
Oh, that was a ball joke, not a weight joke. So
Well, yeah.
I think it's interesting. Chris, I was telling Chris how like I gave some money to some of the hurricane relief organizations or whatever, and Chris is like, you know, you just give it to your mom if you wanted to. I didn't even think about that. Like, I guess like it's a weird thing. Like,
yeah, I get it. I get it.
You know, give it to everyone else, or like, you know, my mom lost quite a bit. You know, it's like, well, do I help her out, or like I don't know, like what. I don't know exactly what the right path is.
It is
for that.
strange when you're at a an emergency of this magnitude, you probably know someone that you could help directly.
That's what it's like, man. I feel like I know several people that could be helped directly, but it's a weird. You also need to help the agencies that save in those environments.
Well, there's an economies of scale, right?
Exactly.
So like, you're
Also, people are affected on different levels.
right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So your $10 that goes to, name your organization, may get them more than if I give my mom $10, she's like, oh, well, all right, great. Yeah, it's fine, but get some toilet paper or something. I don't know.
Yeah, but there's a really easy way if you want to support the Red Cross. I did it. You can text, and I'll look this up so we get the right information here.
9066.
I want to see. Let's look at the right one. Red Cross text.
Close.
Let's see what it is.
90999.
Oh, it's on screen. You're the best, man. Thank you so much. To text Harvey at 9099, and you can donate $10. Does it automatically. I did it. You do it, and then it comes back to you and says, thanks, you've agreed to donate money to the Red Cross, and then you just have to reply yes to it as well.
They should put a zip code in it on some.
Hey, Patrick, can we get you on the sidecar to talk about some stuff we've got coming up too? Yeah. So we're working on some things as well. I mean, obviously, we're based in Texas. We're in Austin. We were very, very fortunate to be on the fringe of this unprecedented storm. But even just being on the fringe of it, we got, like you were saying, all the rainfall we normally get in a year. There were people whose lives here were affected. On a personal level, it's like I had to go to this thing. I had this this hosting job that I had, and it was in Las Vegas where I just got back from, and I had to go to it. It's like there was like so many promotion around it and everything. And if there was any possibility that I could, go, I had an obligation to do it. But there were so many times where it's like I don't feel like I can leave my house right now and everything. And the universe was telling me not to go because I had 3 flight cancellations out of Austin, had to drive to Dallas, and then got delayed 2 more flights. Then another flight got canceled, and finally got out at like 9 p.m. to go to this thing. So it's just like, even just being on the fringe, it paralyzed so many different things. And then for the people who were in the middle of this, it's life changing to say the least. And so, Patrick, what's the plan right now?
We are putting together a GoFundMe page to help out a charity. We're still deciding on which charity. Probably by the time this airs, we'll have it set.
Got it.
So the description and link will be on the screen right here.
Got it.
And in the description as well. So if you're listening to the podcast, just go to our link dump and it'll be there as well.
Yeah, and we're trying to do this as carefully as we can. It's like a lot of times when you try to raise charity, you want to make sure it's going in the right way. We have a lot of experience doing it with Extra Life. And some other charity work that we've done, and you guys worked with Stack Up a lot as well. You're saying
I think it was an RT initiative.
Was Stack Up
thing? Yeah, we were part of that because you guys.
Yeah, so the it's one of those things where we do have a lot of experience doing. We have people here that know how to handle that and do things in the right way. So we're just trying to do whatever we can to help out.
Yeah, and we jumped onto the Red Cross texting donation because that was the thing that was set first, and we could get onto it quickly. And we've had some time to kind of look at all the charities and see where we can help the most.
Yeah.
So that's what we're doing next.
Cool. Okay. And in the meantime, if you're looking for something, hopefully that link that we have will be something that you can contribute to. But there's a lot of different ways that you can help out if you're concerned about the people whose lives were affected in Hurricane Harvey. Even as simple if you live in the U.S. There's disaster relief funding that is provided by the government. Those kinds of things. It's like now you know what they're for. When you see something like this, organizations like FEMA that helped out people recover from Katrina. And then they come help people. Now we don't know. I mean, we're sitting here recording this late in the week, Friday when we're recording this, Monday when it airs. We don't even know what the situation will be. We're still in the process of all figuring out as this water recedes, just what is left for not just Houston, but a lot of cities along the Gulf Coast. Rockport that was hit heavily by the hurricane itself, Corpus Christi,
Mustang Island, right?
Yeah, just
Beaumont, right? Chris, you said?
I think so, yeah.
Pretty much.
It's just a lot of it.
I didn't see this, and I wish somebody had done it. You kind of lose perspective for how big the storm is just because of how big Texas is. For something to affect most of the Gulf Coast of Texas, if they laid New England over that, it would literally be every state in New England, I think. And I haven't seen that. I would like to see someone, if this had hit another part of the U.S., it's like people just keep saying Texas. You tend to think, oh, it's one city. It's not. It's an enormous amount of land and a huge amount of people that are affected. Houston's now the 3rd largest city in the nation.
Yeah.
Has finally passed Chicago, from what I understand.
Oh,
so,
wow. I even though on a smaller scale too, helping out wise, if you're in Houston or thereabouts, like a friend of mine is helping people with their houses tear out like the rubbish that's in there and help them with the flood and everything. Like if you see someone a neighbor, and again you have to be local or whatever the case is, but like you can just go and help them, and they'll be appreciative of it, clearing stuff and a house when it gets flooded is just full of just shit. Just mud and grass and everything's ruined and blah, blah, blah. And if you can, help your neighbor, that goes a long way.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't want to get too preachy here or anything like that, but also, even if you're not anywhere near the area and you're just like on social media, I read a really interesting perspective of someone who was talking about being in a situation where their power was out, all they had was their phone, right? And so they were trying to get information as quickly as they could. One of the things that they used in order to do that for quick dissemination of information was Twitter. But they kept getting in the hashtag, and the hashtags for their crisis were filled with people just saying, oh, look at this crazy picture of this thing and hashtagging the thing, or saying, I'm praying for the victims, and then all this
Look
stuff.
at the shark in the water.
Yeah, exactly, like that kind of stuff. And or even like calling it out, like, can you believe somebody photoshopped this thing, Harvey? And it's like, the people don't need that in a time of crisis. Just let people use that hashtag for, things for disseminating information. But then also there's another part of it too, which is just, I was really shocked by it. And I guess it shows the disconnect of people who have never been in a crisis. But I saw people posting, like I saw a post by Casey Neistat, and he said, my wife's 70-year-old father is trapped in his house. Here's his address. Can someone please help him? And it was just like people saying, oh my gosh, I wish I could do something, that kind of thing. Normal expressions in reply. A couple people in there saying, oh my God, I'm in the area, I'll see what I can do. But then there was also a group of people that were just like, why didn't you evacuate? It's like, dude, come on. Or just like, I thought, and I don't know that much about, Casey's life, but apparently it's part of his vlog. It must have come up. Somebody was even like, isn't your father-in-law a doctor? You should be smarter than this. It's like, dude, shut the fuck up. Sometimes you can really help out by just not saying a fucking thing.
Also, that's victim blaming.
And it is. And it's like, what are you contributing there? It's just like, these situations, they come out of nowhere. Nobody told Houston to evacuate. Nobody told us to evacuate in Austin. That storm takes a left. Our houses are all gone. And this production, we're not having it this week because this place is underwater. You know what I mean?
I mean, they specifically didn't tell Houston to evacuate because, like when that happened with Katrina and people were evacuating, people were getting killed in their cars because of the floodwaters. And it's like, there was a reason why they didn't do that. The government's always
stuck on the highway, which is now underwater.
Well, it's easier on day 4 of a hurricane to predict what the hurricane was going to do.
Right.
It's not so easy on the T-1 day to say, okay, the hurricane's going to go here, and then it's going to take a hard right and go up the coast. They don't know it's going to happen.
Plus, there's a person that has to go like, evacuate the 6 million people from the city. You're going to be sure, or at least, I don't know, as confident as you can be before you say something like that.
It's much harder to be safe than sorry when you're dealing with a million.
Also, when you've lived somewhere for 30 or 40 years of your life, it's hard to imagine 2 days it could be underwater.
Yeah.
That you live in just chest deep in water. It's just hard for anyone to imagine that could take place. And it's not, Houston does have a history of hurricanes, but we haven't never seen anything like that.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is like, there's definitely a time for jokes. And as comedians, I would definitely say that, when there's dark parts of our history that you can go back and make jokes about it. 9/11 being the big one is like people got very sensitive about jokes after the fact. Once a crisis is occurring, I can absolutely say that's not the time to be standing around making jokes, coming up with the hottest take of what's going on. It's just, I was super disappointed to see some of that stuff.
It's the internet and the anonymity that people get, and they feel like they can just say whatever they want.
I was amazed. I was legitimately amazed, and I've seen a lot of stuff on the internet, as my search history will now say for today's podcast. All right, cool. Anything else? Final thoughts, anybody? All right. Well, anything that you can do to help contribute to the GoFundMe page that we've set up, we'll make sure that those donations get into the right hands that can help people that are affected by Hurricane Harvey. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We'll see you next week.